Hi, this is Ashlee.
And this is Kristen.
And this is 1,000 Miles of True Crime. So thank you everyone for being here. This is officially our first episode. Me and Kristen thought this was going to be easy. We're going to start an awesome podcast. And then we realized that it's really hard.
I think that really hard is not even the best choice of words for it. It's incredibly hard, frustrating, but we're working through it. We're working through our challenges, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah. And one of the things that makes it such a challenge, and so you guys kind of understand our name, is that I am in Chicago. And where are you, Kristen?
I am in Texas. I am in Fort Worth.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't catch our intro, we are doing this podcast because Kristen tragically left me at the beginning of the pandemic. Me and Kristen were really good friends. And for a lot of reasons that are great, she had to move to Texas.
Yep. I'm here. I've been here for a year, and I miss Ashlee like so incredibly much that we figured we spend all this time talking about true crime all of the time. We're both like hardcore into true crime. So we figured, why not start a podcast? Yeah, I had no real true background of like what was all involved with a podcast and creating a podcast. Ashlee had way more information. She had been listening to way more content than I had. So.
Yeah, we just thought a lot of people can just relate in general. You know, you have friends move or quit a job, or, you know, all the reasons that you start to like drift apart, but you really want to stay close to that person. You know, we kind of hope you guys can empathize with that and get that and get our friendship. And I definitely don't think I had more knowledge in podcasts, but I hope that you guys think we sound like experts, and we have worked really hard on this. We're just really excited to share what we have with you guys.
Yep. Welcome.
I guess that's probably a good pivot, right? Should we get started? I'm sure people would rather hear about our case. We're going to talk about Betty Broderick today.
Ooh, I'm excited. Let's get into it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. So what Kristen knows and that you guys don't know is that I went down a horrible rabbit hole with Betty Broderick. I became obsessed, and from like day to day, I would have a different opinion on Betty. Like she's just petty and bitter and crazy, to like she was clearly abused, you know. And I think that's probably why a lot of people are so addicted to this case and can't get over it.
Yeah, she's absolutely notorious is the best word I'd say for her, knowing that she killed her husband and his, new wife, like all that. But at the same time, knowing the backstory, it really sheds light on more than, your husband leaving you for a younger woman was going on. Like there was many lines of abuse going on. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, and I think with all of these, there's two sides to every story. There's lots of layers, but one of the things that really got me about this case too was just how obsessed people are with it. And when I was first researching like what books to read and things like that, like all of these reviews kept saying like, I've been obsessed with the Betty Broderick case since it came out, and since the Lifetime movie A Woman Scorned, the Betty Broderick story. And I just thought it was kind of funny because like so many people are like, that's when I became a true crime junkie. And you saw the movie, right? When I brought up this case to you, you jumped on it right away and were like, did you see the Lifetime movie? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember what year it came out, but I for sure was watching Lifetime at that time, probably with my mom. And I was like, what is going on? This woman is bonkers. The Lifetime movie really, I mean, it showed her as like batshit crazy, literally.
Well, I think that's interesting too, because I think when the case first happened and when like the Lifetime movie came out, nobody was really looking at like the battered woman syndrome as much and things like that. So like the narrative was really like Betty's crazy. It wasn't like what drove her to that. And I think now when I see updated podcasts, updated shows, things like that, they do kind of take that angle more, looking at was Betty always crazy, or did something happen to lead to this? So I just think it's interesting to see where the narrative's shifting to now.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely.
So Elizabeth Ann Biseglia She likes to go by Betty. She was born in November 7th, 1947. And she really had these strict Catholic parents. So, I mean, they were always instilling these rules and, what they expected of her and with this upbringing. Father was he had a successful construction company. They were really able to have that environment where the dad was out working and the mom stayed home. But one thing that was a little different was her mom was really like the strict parent. Like she was the one ruling the household. It was kind of like everyone had to ask her permission before they did anything. Betty would really describe her mom as being more of a sort of like emotionally abusive character in her life and really just setting these extremely strict standards on Betty. Betty had, was always told the number one thing is be a housewife, be a successful housewife, go find a very rich, successful husband. It's very important. Her mom felt being like a socialite was important. So, Betty needed to find a way to continue this streak or her mom wasn't going to be proud of her. And Betty was going to a small college in the Bronx called Mount St. Vincent.
So I'm trying to remember from watching the documentary or like watching any detail on Betty. What school was she going? What was she going to school for? Like,
well, she went for early childhood education and she minored in English. I mean, overall, I think that's if you're really just going to be a housewife, that's a pretty good, topic to study. But she would later actually use it. She did teach a bit. She worked at a daycare center for a while. She babysat a lot. I mean, even before when she was a teenager, all of her money came from babysitting. She would babysit constantly and she'd save up all that money. She was able to buy a car and pay for college and anything she was doing was all from this babysitting money.
So technically she didn't really use her degree, or did she?
She did. I mean, she did use her degree. Honestly, before she used it more before she got pregnant, but she got pregnant pretty quickly after she got the degree. So she didn't get to use it too much, but she tried to put it into use. She did write a book. I mean, I guess she's the English minor a bit too. She tried to find ways to use what she learned, but she wasn't like a full-time teacher for 20 years, tendered somewhere or something like that. So, but she did try to use it and be flexible with it. She gets invited to this Notre Dame game with her friends. And it's actually for her friend's brother, Bill, is like, hey, Betty, please come out. I want you to see Notre Dame. And she's always clear to say, I took a chaperone and this isn't something I would normally do. She wanted to have this experience. So she goes, and when she's there, she's at a bar with her friend, and this guy, Dan Broderick, walks up and he asks, does anybody have a pen? And it's always this really cheesy story that on a piece of paper, it's actually on a napkin, he writes his name, Dan Broderick, MDA. Of course, everyone's like, well, what does the MDA stand for? And he says, medical doctor almost. So I don't know, Kristen, would you have fallen for this? Like everybody really hates on this story and talks about how cheesy it is. What do you think if you were?
I mean, it's corny as hell, but I probably would have fallen for it. It is corny, but like, yeah, it's a bit charming. I probably would have fallen for it.
And it's like, how close are you to becoming that doctor?
Right.
So basically this is the first time she meets Dan Broderick III. And he also grew up in a strict Catholic family. His family actually had 9 kids. So he was the oldest out of 9 children. He was, used to being in this really big environment, and his also did run a little differently. I mean, his dad ruled everything. Like his dad decided how much they spend, and the mom would have to ask for permission to do things. And later there would be accusations that he drank way too much, so he had a bit of a drinking problem. And then when he was drinking, there was some accusations that he would abuse his wife.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah, maybe some foreshadowing to why Dan will eventually become the person that he is. They're still at the party, and Dan tells Betty that he's just gotten accepted into Cornell Medical School, which is in New York. And so Betty's from New York, and she's like, oh my gosh, you're going to be in New York. Me too. And, they had a good time, but things just kind of end there. Betty doesn't think anything of it. She goes back with her friend, and they have a great time. And then she heads back to New York, not really thinking much of it. But right away when she gets home, all of a sudden there's all these flowers and telegrams, and he's really trying to woo her. He's telling her, I am going to come out to New York. There's going to be a Notre Dame game soon, and I want to see you. And of course, right away, her mom's like, Notre Dame, that's a very prestigious Catholic school, and there's going to be a lot of Catholic men there, so you will be attending. And Betty was excited. She wanted to go hang out with Dan. And when she gets there, it's a great time. People are saying that Dan was like, check that girl out. That's my future wife. So things are going well. And so Dan finally does move to New York because, again, he's going to Cornell. And right away, he wants to hang out with her. He doesn't know anyone else. It's like really important to him that they come and hang out and they spend time together.
He was digging Betty big time.
Yeah, at the time he was digging Betty. She's on board. She knows the city. She's got her car. She wants to go pick him up. They're going to have a good time. And she always tells the story of when they first met. But when they first started hanging out when he moved to New York, where she goes and picks him up and she's all excited. She's like, hey, we're going to go meet my friends on the West Side and we're going to have a great time. And, he gets really offended and pulls the car over on the side of the road, her car, and is like, let me get one thing straight right now. You do not tell me where we are going and what we are going to do. So Betty's a good girl. What does she do? Right away, she apologizes just like a lady does. So
yikes.
Yikes. I'm sure it shocked her. I don't think she knew, how to react. She just apologized. They went on with the day. He ends up taking her to Central Park and they have this amazing date. So, right away, she's trying to put that out of her head. She's like, yeah, it was like a one-time thing. And we did have a great time. And she really enjoyed the day. So maybe this won't happen again. Maybe this really isn't a big deal.
I feel like that would have been the first red flag. Like, all right. So you think you are running the show? That would be a red flag for me. So
yeah, I mean, and it's not that he thinks he's running the show. I mean, he makes it clear, I'm running the show. Don't try to tell me what we're doing. And she just kind of, went along with the flow. I mean, she was in shock. She didn't know what to say, but she should have said, turn my car around.
Yeah, that's what I find to be like kind of shocking, because like later in finding out like more about Betty and her personality, her reactions, I would have thought that the Betty that I know, like that killed her husband, her husband's new wife, I would have thought she would have not tolerated that or like not allowed that. So she definitely developed who she is now. So
well, and I think it's weird too, because like you'd almost assume that she also had a very similar upbringing to Dan and that she wasn't used to seeing like this strong, powerful woman. But from all accounts, like that is not the way her mom would have ran her house. But, the way Betty says it is that her mom was such just like overpowering and, mentally abusive character that she was used to just like trying to avoid conflict and saying sorry, even if she wasn't in the wrong. Even though she was used to seeing this powerful woman, like she wasn't used to being the powerful woman. That might be kind of where some of this comes from. But so they're dating, things are going well. And Dan just keeps asking her like, will you marry me, Betty? Like, we need to get married. And she is like, no, I want to wait until graduation. It was really important to her for her to get her degree. But on April 12th, 1969, she had gotten her degree and they decided to go ahead and get married. So they got married in Westchester, New York. And Betty's mom was furious that they did not wear formal morning dress. So Kristen, are you familiar with formal morning dress? Because I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, I think it's like a formal suit with like a long coat. It's kind of tacky if you ask me, but that's what I think it is.
Tacky. He was supposed to look like Prince Charming. But yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. I had no idea, but her mom was really offended. Like, how dare you? Again, being a socialite is really important to her. She has all her friends there. She wants to see him in these like gaudy sort of, garments that make him look like like a prince. This just showed how obsessed Betty's family was with appearances. Do you want to know why Dan actually wouldn't wear them?
No, like wait, why wouldn't he wear them?
Well, he refused to wear them because he didn't want to have to rent a suit on his wedding day. So if he didn't have enough money to purchase these formal mourning gowns, then he wasn't going to wear them. So he just wore like a suit that he owned. But all of his groomsmen were in rented suits with, with the very fancy mourning gown. So, mourning dress. So, I mean, it probably did look pretty weird on top of that. Like the groom's supposed to be the most fancy and he's just in this regular suit, but Betty didn't care. She was like, shut up, Mom. I love him and I'm going to marry him. I don't care what he's wearing. The wedding still happens, but Betty claims that really was like almost the final straw with her mom. It really disconnected them. They were never close after that. And her mom really resented the fact that she would move forward with the wedding.
That's petty.
It's petty. Well, I guess maybe pettiness runs in the family. And we know where Betty gets it. So the wedding is sort of a success, and so was the honeymoon. Betty, again, she's a good Catholic girl, so she was a virgin, and the way she describes it is that they get on their honeymoon and Dan rapes her. I mean, he was ready. He had been waiting, and he just pounced on her. And he really began to treat her like a maid. So when they got there, Dan let go of the whole staff and like made it clear to Betty, like, well, you can do all the cooking and you can do the cleaning and you can make my bed.
And so what was Mr. Dan going to be doing on this trip?
Oh, well, he brought a full suitcase full of books. So he would be sitting by the pool and he would be enjoying himself reading these books.
Well, how convenient. Wow.
Yeah.
Red flag number 2.
Yeah, red flag number 2. He's more interested in the books. And, she said the way she puts it, and unfortunately we only have her side of the story, is like, she was trying to get him to go into town with her, do all these things. Like, you're on vacation. It's your honeymoon. She wants to make it a lasting experience. And he just like kind of had no interest in hanging out with her. Like, he was like, this is my free time and this is what I have planned for it. They were still able to get some business done because you can call the honeymoon a success because when Betty got back, she was pregnant. It's very quick. So she had to give up her teaching job. She just found that while being pregnant, it was really hard to work. And all of her pregnancies, she really struggled with. They were really hard on her body. And also, I mean, we all can, a lot of us can relate to this. Childcare is really expensive and she wasn't making enough to continue teaching. So when she had the child, she knew she was going to have to quit and, find a more flexible way to, provide income to her family. Because at this point, Dan's not really working. He's going to school full time at Cornell. To do this, she's got to be flexible. She starts selling for Avon and she's really a people person. She starts to be really successful with this. And because she's so successful with this, Avon just really lets her, come up with her own schedule. She can work when she wants and she needs to. And she also was really working like on herself. She wanted to be the perfect housewife. Again, this was a goal. This was the goal that was instilled on her. So she's doing everything she can to, make this honestly a hard situation. They're such a young married couple. They don't have any money and, make it good for her and her family. She was working to put him through school and take care of their kids and, really make him as successful as he could be. So she was also helping him with his school. And one thing is that I found it makes it even harder is it seemed like the kids never stopped. I mean, shortly after she had her first kid, Kim, she got pregnant again with her second daughter, Lee. And over the next 10 years, Betty she'll have 9 pregnancies in 10 years. So I just want to pull up my notes. I want to make sure I get this right. So she ends up having 2 girls and, then she actually has a child pass away after being 2 days old. So you have to imagine how difficult that is. Then she has an additional 2 miscarriages. She ends up having 2 abortions. And then she has her 2 sons, Rhett and Daniel.
Oh man, that's horrifying. And I'm sure that probably also took a toll on her mental health. The miscarriages, the abortions, they had to have been hard. I can't even imagine losing a kid that's 2 days old. Like, bad.
Horrible. I could it breaks my heart just even hearing about it. Anybody who's been through all of this, it's such a challenge, but all of her pregnancies were rough. Like from from what I understand, she didn't even have one sort of easy pregnancy, and it wasn't like a rough first trimester. It was rough throughout. And with that baby particularly, it was like she wasn't sure she was going to survive. It was so rough on her. And although she's having this really rough time, Dan actually went on a ski trip with his friends while she's pregnant. And what Betty claims is that later Dan was really mad that this all happened because while he was on the ski trip, she went into labor with the baby, and he was like pissed at her that he had to leave his trip, and he never gets to hang out with his friends and go skiing. So he was, basically pissed that she ended up having the baby and the baby died. So, she says that he wasn't like warm and comforting. He was just more mad at her and was like, we need to get over this and move on with our lives. Thanks for interrupting my weekend.
We're just going to say that is red flag number 3. I mean, damn.
3, 4, 5, maybe 6.
Dan. Jeez, no compassion, no empathy. And I mean, it's not like she's the only one that lost a child. You lost one too, dude. Ugh.
Yeah. Yes. And just to be honest, though, this was an account from Betty. I mean, there was a chance that it didn't even happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure no matter what, I mean, it would have been his firstborn son. I'm sure it was hard on him, and maybe he just didn't, maybe he didn't address it properly. I mean, I really pray that he wasn't mad about having to leave his ski trip, but you never know. I've heard people do worse. So, but finally, Dan does become a doctor. He got his dream job. But a common theme that we're going to see with Dan is that he's just not satisfied. Like no matter what, as soon as he kind of reaches his goal right away, he has a whole new goal, and he wants to accomplish something else. So what's the next best thing to being a doctor?
I am going to definitely go with a lawyer, because I remember from the Lifetime movie that he was an attorney, and that's how I'm going to go with an attorney.
Ding, 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 Kristen, you did get it right. So he applied to Harvard without even telling Betty. So he applied and he did get accepted. And I mean, I think Betty was a little like, I would have supported you if you had told me you were applying. And it's hard. You're not going to go through the same thing again. You finally see almost the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to be making good income. He's going to be a doctor. But he really explained that, hey, like we can make good money or we can make great money. I'm going to go to law school. And Betty was on board. So, Harvard's in Boston. So they had to root their life up to Boston. And New York was a lot easier for her because that's where she was, born, raised, and that's where her family was. But they go to Boston. And at this point, they're really poor. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They're poor. I mean, at one point they're on food stamps. They're living in this crappy apartment that's just freezing. The pipes are freezing, so they don't have water, and it's unbearable. Betty says like, hey, I thought New York winters were bad. She claims that Boston's are a lot worse. So they're in the city, they don't know anybody, and they're just trying to survive. And Dan was doing whatever it took to be a good student. So again, this is important to Betty. She wants to help him get through school. So she's helping him type up his briefs. She's helping him with his homework on top of having to sacrifice, her degree. And she's, working these low income jobs so that she has a way to be really flexible so that she can only work when he can watch the kids. Because at this point, she has the 2 daughters. So she's doing all of this to help him. And everything finally pays off. Dan has now graduated, and he's going to get his big fancy new job as a medical malpractice attorney. And at this point, he was looking at where he wanted to work, and he drove the family across country to San Diego to check it out. And, they checked out LA, they checked out a couple other areas, but he really thought, San Diego's the place for me. It's going to allow me to be a big fish in a little pond. And that's what he was a peacocker. He wanted to show up and, be the big guy on the block. So it was a good fit for him. And after really cold, bitter winters in Boston, you can understand why the family was not complaining about moving to San Diego.
Right.
So they're trying to establish their lives. They're building new friends. They're they're finally getting a steady paycheck. I mean, they're still in a lot of debt because it costs a lot to send him to Harvard and Cornell. But for the first time, they're really getting money in and they can kind of relax. But you know what that means for Dan, right?
Of course. Dan needs something else. He needs more.
He needs more. Yeah. So, I guess the plan was always that he wanted to open up his own practice. And so he worked at the first practice, kind of, really practiced law for about 4 years. And then he opened up his own practice. And, Betty helped with this. Betty helped set everything up. She helped him find, where they were going to, move the business to. She actually got her real estate agent license as well. So she helped find where they were going to be. She designed it all. She, was the one who encouraged him, like, hey, you're going to want to splurge and you don't want clients showing up to a crappy little office. Like, it needs to look like you're helping millionaire clients. And that's how you're going to get the millionaire clients. So she did what she could to help him open. And so he opens, but right away, Betty's just getting this bad vibe. She's noticing a change in him. They're not close anymore. They're not working together. And he's only concerned with being successful. It's his number one drive. And for a person who went to Cornell and Harvard to now suddenly have even more of a drive to be successful, you know what I mean? Like, he must have just been, that was his number one focus. She begs him, like, can you go to this church, like, marriage counseling retreat with me? It was really important for her. And at first he was like, are you kidding me? Like, not a chance. That's what my parents went to. And I don't have time for this.
What's really sad is that, like, all that, like, she sacrificed for him to, like, climb the ladder of success. And then it literally, like, has such a negative impact on their marriage. It's sad. It's sad.
It is sad. To an extent, I'm like, well, what'd you expect when he opened up his own business? Like, suddenly he was going to have a lot more time for you. But yeah, it is hard. It's really hard to deal with not being the number one importance in someone's life. And, and feeling like you did everything you could to help get them there. And now they're kind of treating you like, some minimum wage employee or something.
Yeah. Entitled.
Ooh, entitled. That's unfortunately a really good word. So they did go to this marriage retreat, though. They really worked on their marriage, and at least temporarily, it kind of helped. You could notice a difference. They were talking together again. They were spending more time together. And Betty was starting to get confident that, okay, maybe this was just a bump in the road. We're going to fix our marriage. And at this point, they start making money, like a lot of money. We're not just talking like we finally have a steady paycheck. It's like we're new money. And what do they do? Again, like, think of Dan's this big peacocker. So of course he needs the greatest suits. Like, I'm not going to JCPenney's to get a suit. Like, he wants, he has his suits flown in from Europe, and he has his shirts custom made from a tailor down the street. And, they were just blowing money. They, all the kids got new clothes. She had new clothes. They were getting new furniture. I mean, they were joining. Why would you join one country club when you can join two? So that was kind of like their mentality. Like, we need to live it up. Unfortunately, I think this is kind of where we see the beginning of the end, like where things start to really decline.
Sounds like money would do that.
Yeah, it's a tale as old as time. But so one night they're at a company party, and Betty had gotten all dolled up, her very, very expensive dresses, and they show up and she's having a good time, but she overhears Dan say something about, he's talking to another coworker and he calls someone beautiful. It just hit her in the stomach. Like, this isn't the way Dan talks. Like, she was very suspicious. Like, he doesn't even call her beautiful. Like, this isn't him. And honestly, she defends him and says, it's not like he was ever out there looking for other women. Like, he was so obsessed with work. It wasn't even on his mind. now this is on Betty's mind. She cannot stop thinking about it. And, she obviously that night she brings it up again and says, hey, who were you calling beautiful at the party? And he tries to downplay it. I mean, he admits there's this new receptionist, Linda, but he basically says, hey, that guy that I was talking to, he's into Linda. And I was just agreeing with him that she's pretty. But of course, Betty could not let that go.
I mean, I get why. Like your husband is not known to talk like that or call women beautiful. So I would be like prying too. Like, who is this? Who are you talking about? Like, I want to know.
Yeah. My first thought was like, how'd she do it? Like, I'd be on the internet or like this day and age, I'd be like, Linda. I'd have like the full report on it. But again, it's like the 80s, so they can't do it. So what does Betty do? She goes and scopes out the situation in real life, which I do not blame her. And, so she goes and she sees Linda and she's not happy. I mean, Linda is this really attractive 20-year-old. And honestly, she looks just like Betty did when Betty was 20. So what red flag are we on?
This would be number 4.
Yeah.
Number 4 or number 5, but who's counting at this point? There's enough.
Yeah. So again, this is 1982. And by this time in fall, it really, Dan slips into, I'm so sorry. I'm reading my notes and it says Dan slipped into Linda, his legal assistant. Unfortunately, I have to like stop for a second. That is far too accurate. That is not what I meant. But yes, Dan had slipped into his legal assistant. So, okay, moving on. What I meant to say was Dan slipped in that he was getting a legal assistant. And Betty she's thrilled. She's like, finally, I've been pushing you to get a new legal assistant or to get a legal assistant because he didn't have one. So he's working 24/7. And in her head, she's like, great, he's going to spend more time with the family. This is exactly what we need. So, she's asking him some questions like, where'd you find the legal assistant? Like, tell me all about this legal assistant. And after a couple of questions, she realizes that Linda Kolkina, that hot little 20-year-old, is somehow now his new legal assistant.
I would have blown a gasket. I would have been livid. One, this is the one woman that I've verbally heard my husband state is beautiful. She's 21. Is she qualified? Does she know how to do the job? Can she get the job done? Like, why her? I would have questions. And that wouldn't have flown with me. Mm-mm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would have been furious. Betty was furious. And honestly, people at the office were furious too. I mean, she really didn't have any experience. There was no reason that she should be doing a job like this. The one thing that everybody always points out is she couldn't even type. So how are you going to be a legal assistant in the 80s and you can't type? And Dan was actually pretty cheap. It's one of the things he was known for is that like he would splurge on himself and looking really gaudy, and he wanted everyone to know he had money, but like he would try to cut costs any way he could. So he had this employee working for him for a long time, and he like kept her on as a contractor so that he wouldn't have to pay her benefits or anything like that. So Linda's been there for a little bit. She's just looking cute. So she gets moved into a big office, gets a big fancy job, gets benefits, gets, all this money. And so there was a lot of people really frustrated with the situation and in questioning what's really going on here. I don't think anybody was like, that Linda girl, she really deserved that role.
It seems like Dan had one requirement for this legal assistant that he was hiring, and it's that she had to be beautiful. So that's why Linda got this job. That's why she got the fancy office, and ugh.
Yeah.
Dan.
Dan. Yeah. I mean, he's like not even hiding it at this point. And moving her into the office next to him. But, so Betty's furious. She's like, get rid of him. Like, you're going to get rid of him right now. Like, this is ridiculous. And Dan was like, no, this is my office. I'm not going to tell you again. And I'm the one who rules things around here. And basically told her to sit down and shut up. So, she obviously, Betty's just like so distraught and she's furious about the situation. But I don't know, Kristen, do you want to go ahead? Let's take a guess. What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, I know what happens, but I'm gonna guess that Dan and Linda start this love affair. And yeah, we're gonna go with that. Am I right?
Oh my God. How'd you guess? Yeah. The recipe for a marriage disaster is laid out for us. They begin to have an affair. And at this time, I mean, Linda's what, like 22, maybe? That is not just going to go away. She's not the type of person that's just going to lie down and let Linda move in. She is ready to fight for her man. She's furious. And, she's talking to her friends and her friends are like, you need to show up, like show up there, show them who you are, like, lay down your territory. And so Betty's like, okay, I'm going to do it. This is like my last shot. She gets all dolled up. I mean, spends all day, you know how it is, doing the hair, doing the makeup. Like, this isn't just like, I got to look good. This is like, I got to save my husband from a 22-year-old. Good. And it's Dan's birthday. He's 39. So she wants to show up there. She's going to have champagne. And her plan is that they're going to watch the sunset from his office and they're going to watch the ships come in and he's going to look into her eyes and they're going to fall in love again. And, everything's going to turn around. So she's all dolled up. She gets to the office and Dan's not there. And yeah,
I'm not really surprised.
Dan? Yeah. And she finds out that, Dan and Linda had went to lunch for the special birthday lunch and he still isn't back. And at this point, it's like 5:00. And, I already expressed that people in the office were frustrated. So I'm sure they weren't like downplaying it and trying to hide this, women in an office. I'm sure they were like, where could they be? This happens all the time.
The situation probably escalated after she spoke with the people in the office. Like, where's my husband? Yeah, I'm sure she went from like here to all the way up here.
I'm sure. And it didn't help that she's like, hey, I'm his wife. I'm going to go into his office. And she gets in there and it's like clearly a celebration that had occurred. There's 2 champagne glasses sitting there. There's half-eaten cake. The champagne's gone. I mean, she knows like, okay, so Dan's already been celebrating and I just wasn't included. She's like, hey, I'm going to wait here though. It's like, she's somehow still confident that he's going to come back. So she's going to wait there and, we'll see what happens. And so she's looking around. And one thing that I have to bring up because I thought it was really weird is that she checks out Linda's office. And again, it's huge. She's very annoyed, but she notices there's this picture of Dan from when he was a teenager, like hung on the wall. So can we take a moment to appreciate how weird that is?
All I'm going to say is ew. Okay. One, you're the legal assistant. He's married. Why do you have a picture of him on your desk? Why is it a teenage picture of him? Like, ooh, Linda. No.
Yeah. I think it's weird. I think it also kind of shows like the sort of mindset of Linda and the childish, like I think a 30-year-old woman in an affair would be a lot more responsible. I don't know if that's true, but I just thought it was weird in general.
Yeah.
Very, I don't know. I thought it was creepy, but hey, maybe Linda thought she was being smooth. Like no one would know that was Dan as a teenager, but.
Oh, come on. Right. Like,
yeah. I don't know. But yeah, all I'm getting across is like, Linda wasn't hiding it. She was like future Mrs. Dan Broderick right here. So I bet you're all shocked that Betty snapped. I mean, she was furious. Like, I'm just picturing her like flying home, doing like 80 miles an hour, screaming the whole way. She's like, she cannot control her anger. She runs in the house. She's yelling. Like the kids are scared. She's like, get in your room.
Yeah, psycho mode initiated immediately.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that like she probably like tore Linda's office up too. Like, this bitch's got a picture of my husband in her office. What is going on? Like, man.
There's actually no account that like that she did that. So maybe Betty's a stronger person than we know. Like maybe we shouldn't be labeling her as petty, because I agree. I would have like done that picture right there. Like
it would have went down. They would have came back to that office and been like, what happened? Did a tornado run through here? For real.
Yeah. They would have had to call Dan and be like, we're escorting your wife out of the building. If it was me. So she decided, instead of destroying his office, she was going to go home. And when she got there, she ran to his closet and grabbed all of his suits. So if you remember, I said like he spent a ton on his suits. This was really like important to him. And she grabs them, she goes in the backyard and she sets them on fire.
Ooh, woman scorned.
Ooh. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't blame her. I would say the only like sort of tragic thing in this whole story is that like her kids were home and they all have a very vivid memory of this situation. But, she snapped. So she burned all his suits. He comes in, and the way Betty and her friend describe it, because her friend was there watching the kids, and the way they describe it was that like, Betty does all this. She's starting to calm down. And Dan finally comes home later that night. And he's all drunk and is just like, whatever, Betty, you're crazy. And just sort of like walks upstairs and goes to bed and is like, if he was like really furious and like they got into this passionate fight, like I think she probably almost would have felt better. Like at least if it was me, like you're not even willing to fight about this. You're just, that's my crazy old wife and I'm going to bed. I'm tired from my night with Linda.
It's like he dismissed her. So like she felt like he's already checked out.
Yeah.
That would have been soul crushing. To be dismissed when I'm having a reaction and like you're just like, whatever, I don't even care. That probably, and he probably knew that was going to hurt her even more too, but ouch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think at this point, he's checked out. I think he's probably already in love with Linda, and he's really just continuing to find ways to make Betty think that she's crazy. He's just full out denying the affair, even when there's all these clear signs pointing to the fact that he's with Linda. He really plays it off like in the morning, he's like, I was in court. Like the court doesn't care that it's my birthday. I think we all know that he was not at court and what he was out doing. So at this point, Dan starts complaining to Betty that she's just not looking as good and she needs to lose weight and, find a way to be more appealing to him. So she does everything she could. She starts losing weight. She gets some plastic surgery. She gets like her teeth redone. She's really doing whatever she can to like try to resolve this issue, but they're still fighting. They're not getting along. And she's constantly accusing him of the affair and threatening to get divorced.
How long was she like making accusations? Like, I mean, I know she had this gut feeling, but like, how long was this really going on for?
2 years.
Ooh.
That's a lot of time. So for 2 full years, he's living his best life. He's making millions. He's enjoying Linda. And, he's actually driving Betty crazy because they're constantly fighting about this. And he's just like, you're nuts. I don't know how to solve this situation. Like, I can't prove to you that I'm not doing something that I'm not doing, even though he was really doing it.
It's like the most narcissistic thing ever. Like, for real. Come on, but you are really doing it. You're making me out to be the bad guy. You're making me feel like I'm crazy. You're putting me down, telling me I'm fat, telling me I need to change all these things about myself when really you're the one out here jagging off and doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, it never even really occurred to Betty that Dan would leave. Like she 100% knew he was having an affair. She knew he was having a midlife crisis. I mean, she was, reading every book on it. He's really playing the part. He got the, shiny little red sports car. He's got the side chick. He's living that life too. and living up to that stereotype. But in her head, like, he's going to get over this. This happened. When he's done with Linda, he'll be back with me and we'll be married and everything's, it'll go back to relatively perfect. On February 28th, 1985, Dan leaves Betty. He says, this isn't, gives her the typical, this just isn't working. I need time. I need to find myself. But Betty knew he was going to be with Linda. This wasn't about him needing space. He wouldn't admit to that. The housing situation is sort of weird right now because so they were living in this house, but he tells Betty to go buy this other house, like, go find us our dream family home. And so that's what she did. She went out and she bought this coral reef house. And we'll later find out that, he was actually advised by a lawyer to have her do this because he was already in the talks of like, how do I win a divorce, as best as I possibly can. So she buys this house and, by all accounts, this was not just a fixer-upper. I mean, she referred to it as like a tear down. They're trying to remodel it, and there's actually a crack in the slab in the middle of the house. And I think it's kind of like a metaphor for the marriage at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's so bad. This isn't just like a minor thing that they get these people out there who are like, this is structural damage. Like, we have to fix this and you need to leave the house. Like, you cannot be in the house while we're doing these renovations. They go ahead and they rent a place. So they're kind of in between three places, but they go ahead and they rent this house where, ideally they're all going to live and wait for these repairs to be done. They're staying at this house. And during this time, Dan decides, like, actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move back into the coral reef house. And Betty, you're not welcome. So he's left her. She's not welcome in this house. And, obviously she's sort of stuck. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. This is going to bring on the divorce. So we have gone through so much. And at this point, Dan still hasn't even asked for a divorce, but it's coming. So I know we've been talking for a really long time and we haven't even gotten into the actual murder. So I apologize about that. This is going to have to be a two-parter. So we're going to have to wait and hear about the rest on the next episode. So how are you feeling right now, Kristen?
I am so excited. I am actually feeling really torn. Like just because I know the final outcome or whatnot, but just feeling really torn because granted, we really know Betty's side, right? And we don't really know Dan's side, but from what I've got from this first episode, Dan, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go with Team Betty. I know, it's messed up because she murdered someone, but murdered two people, but I'm Team Betty so far.
Yeah. I mean, at least at this point, I mean, all she's done is really like burned some of his suits and yelled at him a lot. Like, I am total Team Betty. Like, this would drive me mad. And I can understand why she's really starting to lose her mind, especially because she's like going above and beyond and trying to like lose weight, do anything she can, try to be more interesting. And, he's not just saying like, it's not happening. I'm in love with Linda.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's very, very clear that he was done with her. And as much as she wanted it to work and she tried to fix these things according to what his expectations were, she had to have known somewhere deep inside that like it was done. It was done. She might not have wanted it, but she had to have sensed somewhere deep inside that he was already done.
I mean, she swears she didn't. She swears that she thought this was just like a classic midlife crisis, which especially in that area, like La Jolla is a really prominent area. Like, she was like, all my friends were going through this. Like, their husbands hit 40 and like they all went through this, but they all got over it. And they realized like, this is the woman I should be with. Like, I love you, take me back kind of thing. So she really thought in her head, like that was the route that was going to happen for her. Like, she was not going to end up in a divorce. Like, they're Catholic. They would never do that.
Well, we'll find out what happens next on episode 2.
Yes. Thank you so much again, everybody, for listening. We will get the second episode out as soon as possible. And, please rate and review us, and please tell your friends, because we worked really hard on this and we hope you enjoyed it. And we just want to keep building up the podcast.
Thanks for listening, everyone.